If you are building an online business but feel like you're drowning in the noise, if social media seems oversaturated, your industry feels crowded, and you're wondering how to actually stand out, this episode is about to change the game for you. Let's go. Welcome to All In with Ellie, the podcast for online business owners and entrepreneurs who are ready to create the life and business of their dreams. I am so happy you are here. So let's be honest. When it comes to growing a business online, it's a lot. There's a lot of noise. The online space, especially, we could segment it just to the coaching industry. It's super saturated, especially since 2020. As soon as people heard about the seemingly level of ease, right? It seems easy to run an online business, and in a lot of ways it is. It's easier than, sitting in a job that you hate. That's for sure. But anyway, as soon as people saw that, oh, that looks easy, and oh, look at the level of money you can make, it became like the hot thing. And we get it. I certainly don't fault anybody. I would have done the same thing had I not already been in this space. But as a business owner, and I know you listening to this, you can relate to this, it does feel like a lot. And it does sometimes make one wonder, are there too many people? Am I being heard? Are my ideal clients out there, but not able to find me because of all the noise, because of the amount of saturation that is happening, not only in my industry, but in the online space in general and in social media in general? I want to put your mind at ease, and I'm going to give you an alternative path in this episode. And I'm going to start this off with a question for you. Do you know where the most traffic is online? Do you know where the most saturation takes place online? Yes or no? Well, either way, I'm going to tell you. The most traffic and saturation is in the averages. That's where the most competition is. Okay? Yes, there are a lot of people playing the game and trying their damnedest, or at least saying that they are, right? Talking a big game. They're trying their hardest to make money and to serve people well. But truth be told, there are very few people that are actually doing it well. Very few. So yes, if you're looking at your competition as the average business owner out there, there's a lot of them. But when it comes to the elite pro level, there are a lot less. There are very, very few playing. Most people are amateurs. The least amount are at that elite and pro level. So mediocrity is the average. That's the level where most people in your industry are playing. They're playing at that lower to mid level right in there. It's a bunch of mediocre coaches or facilitators creating mediocre content, crushing or creating mediocre offers, not crushing, but creating. I'm going to say that over again. It's a bunch of mediocre coaches or facilitators creating mediocre content, creating mediocre offers, and thus achieving mediocre results. Why is this so? Why don't more people decide to elevate to the elite status? And elite status meaning a level of professionalism, expertise, and skill that puts them in a class all of their own. Right? Elite status, pro status for our purposes here is somebody who has set the bar, right? Oh, you thought that was the standard? No, this is the standard, right? Oh, you thought that was the goal? You thought that was the most that could be done? No, this is the most that can be done, right? They are the best. that attracts then the best. So why don't more people go for elite status? Because elite status requires these following things that very few people are willing to pay. It requires, number one, dedication to the goal. You have to be fully dedicated. You don't just wake up and you're like, oh, I'm the best. It doesn't happen. Okay, so it requires a dedication and a desire to want to go for that goal. It requires an obsession with the craft to become proficient at it. It requires time, a good chunk of your time, and sacrifice on maybe other things that you could be doing in the pursuit of said greatness. And as we all know, probably, it requires a fuck ton of effort on your way up. It's not easy. It takes work. It takes learning. It takes flexibility in more ways than one. All of which you have to be willing to pay the price of, here's the kicker, before you get the results, right? It's not like you decide, okay, I want to be the best. And on my way there, I'm going to be paid really well, and I'm going to be paid like I'm the best, and I'm going to get the following like I'm the best, and I'm going to do all of these things like I'm the best. No, you have to go for it and fully act as if before any of the results come. This is why so few people get to this level, and why the traffic is so light and the competition is so light, because very few people are willing to do that. If the results flowed quickly on your way up, we'd all be at that level, and that would be the new average. That would be the new standard. But that's not how it works. You have to be willing to suck and be one of the worst on your way to being the best. So there's some ego play here too. A lot of people are not willing to look and position themselves as the worst on the way up to the best. You cannot come out the other side without going through it. So this is why. This is why right here. And you can look at any, like let's take professional athletes, for example. How did they get there? How'd they get there? Do you think they just woke up one day at 18 years old and said, you know what? I don't even play basketball, but I want to go pro. I'm going to be a pro today. Or you know what? Next year, I want to go pro. I've barely played, but that looks really cool. They make a lot of money. They get all the girls or all the accolades. I'm going to go do that. No. Usually they've been playing since they've been walking, right? And this has been the goal of theirs forever. Not saying you have to want it forever. Okay? But for a lot of people, that's how it is. I actually heard this really cool story. I came across this reel, and it was a basketball player telling a story about Kobe Bryant. And forgive me because I'm going to butcher the details of it. I'm going to give like the most, hollow example, Cliff Note version of this, but it was a basketball player, and I guess he was at some camp or something, or they were preparing for like this huge tournament or something. I don't know. He was on the same team as Kobe Bryant though. He was talking about how he was like, okay, I want to set myself apart. I am going all in, and I'm going to be like the best at this camp or the best at whatever they were at. So he decided, okay, I'm going to wake up before everybody else, before the sun comes up, and I'm going to go and I'm going to start training. I'm going to get my workout in before anybody is required to show up. I'm going to be in there first. And he was talking about how he showed up and the sun's not up. It's like not even 6 o'clock in the morning or something. And Kobe Bryant was already in the gym putting on his clothes because he was already done with the workout. Like he had already been in there for 2 hours. So this dude thought he was going above and beyond, and Kobe had like been there, done that, and he had been doing that. Right? So it's just like, it just shows like nobody's clapping for that. Nobody. And that's the thing. Like, that's what I love so much about this story, is because when you're already, quote, pro and at elite status, then you get the claps, then you get the accolades, and then you become known as like the best. And people love to watch your stuff and share your shit and whatever. But the road to getting to that level, nobody sees. Nobody's clapping. Nobody was sitting there. Like, Kobe wasn't doing that to look good in front of his team. As a matter of fact, like until that day, nobody had seen him. He was like, that was his own set standard for himself. That is elite level. You can also look at musicians, right? Like Chapel Rowan. And like I love the era of social media because we can see like these very clear timelines of these superstars. And you can go, and ever since Chapel Rowan cleaned up at the Grammys, now they're showing like all of these old performances of her like standing on this makeshift stage at a fair with like 12 people barely clapping for her because they don't know her from Adam. You know, like that's how you get started. I was listening to a podcast today with Morgan Wallen's baby mama, and she was talking about how when they first met, he like invited her to a show, and she said that there was like literally nobody there. This is for Morgan Wallen. Okay. This is after he was on The Voice, and he had to go through that too. But these are the things that you don't see. We just see the finished product when the person's selling out the stadium. So anyway, another example I wanted to give you too, Mr. Beast. So in one of my favorite books, 10X is Easier Than 2X, they talk about a podcast episode where Joe Rogan had interviewed Mr. Beast, and they were talking about his come up and how like from as soon as he knew that YouTube was a thing and content creation was a thing, he became like ridiculously obsessed to the point that he knew even as a preteen, maybe even before then, maybe even younger than that, that he wanted to be the master and the number one creator on YouTube, to the point that he isolated himself. Like people thought he was weird. His own family kind of like goofed on him about it because he, instead of like playing regular sports and being a regular kid, he wanted to nerd out and create YouTube videos before he was even really cool to make YouTube videos. He fully dedicated himself to it. So again, elite status requires dedication, obsession, time/sacrifice, and a lot of effort. A lot. I want you to realize how few people, like I've already said, so few people will go to this level. But when I tell you, it's so much less than you think. So much less. Like if you only knew the amount of people out there on the internet, out there on social media, who are actually backing up their cool videos and words with action, you would feel so confident right now. Like if you had any amount of grit in you at all and any kind of faith that with time and effort you would get somewhere, you would be so much more confident knowing how few people had that same level of grit and dedication and willingness to put in the effort. It's not easy. It's not sexy. So few people have the attention span and the grit and the desire to be great at anything. Anything. It sounds cool until they need to have the standard where they're at the gym before anybody else is. Then it's not cool or sexy anymore because nobody's paying them and nobody's clapping for them yet. You know, I just said like, I've been talking about like this cool new camera that we have in this new setup, and it looks amazing, right? Like the quality is beautiful, but the effort just to get this camera up and running, right? Like I'm on the phone with my team. I'm on the phone with my video editor. This is like a huge learning curve for me. I just want to sit here and talk to you and give my heart. But there were so many steps to get to this point. And that's just for a stupid camera setup, right? And I made this comment to Kate, who, you know, she and Philip edit this podcast. And I was like, this is why, like, I really believe One of the reasons so few podcasts succeed at the level that you might think they would is because of little stuff like this, because of tech issues, because these hurdles that feel so annoying and big in the moment, but in the grand scheme are literally nothing. Like I'm not going to be talking in a year about a stupid camera that took me 2 years to set up. Like, okay, who cares? Like you had to do it to get here. But it's like, it's things like that hold people back because they just don't want it bad enough. They either don't want it bad enough or they don't believe that it's possible. But at the end of the day, I want you to listen to me. You don't fuck around and accidentally become the best. That's not a thing. It's never going to happen. There is such a thing as innate talent. People have talent for sure, but effort will trump talent all day, every day, because talent will only get you so far. You still have to want it and you have to be willing to sacrifice at levels to achieve it. So if you're still listening to this, maybe you're thinking to yourself that this is the move, right? Maybe you're thinking to yourself and you're considering in your head what it might look like to be the very best or one of the best and elite in your respective industry. And if you're thinking that, I'm really, really glad, because while it for sure is the more difficult decision right now in the moment, it is for sure the more profitable decision in the end. So how do we do this? If you're thinking to yourself right now, I want to be the best or I want to be one of the best, but how do I do that? I have no clue. I'm going to tell you the steps right now, okay? 3 steps. Number 1, you first have to decide, as we've discussed. You can't commit to something without a decision to fully go for it. So you're going to decide right now, I am going to be the best at blank or one of the best at blank. I'm going pro, I'm going elite. Cool. Number 2, you're going to dedicate yourself to it. Okay? You are fully going to dedicate yourself to becoming proficient at whatever skill is required for this craft to be one of the best. So I'm going to give you a very tangible tip here. And I've heard this actually twice now in the past week. And I can't remember where I heard this stat from, but I looked it up. But there's something called the rule of 100, which means that if you spend, I guess it's 100 hours in any one thing, you are then 95% better than everybody else at that thing. Okay. So if you spend 100 hours doing anything, you're automatically 95% better than everybody else. Do you know what 100 hours equates to each day? 18 minutes a day. That's it. If you dedicate yourself to 18 minutes working on or increasing your skill level at whatever is required to be the best at that craft, you in a year can essentially be 95% better than most of the world. That is so doable. Like, how much time do you scroll social media, right? How much time do you do anything that like you could easily sacrifice and swap that out for? A lot of things. You could probably think of at least 3 things right now that you could cut out or cut even in half and replace with those 18 minutes. And then the third thing that I want you to do is commit to this goal regardless of the outcome, regardless of the timeline. Okay? The difference between going elite in the online business space versus going pro in maybe like a sport or an artistic endeavor like acting or singing is that we're mostly on an even playing field here. Okay? Talent in the online space isn't so much a factor as it is with these other, areas like sports or the arts. Okay. It can help if you're good at speaking, for sure. It can help if you're maybe attractive or you're funny or you're super smart, but those things are not required for you to succeed in the online space. Everybody is going to have their strengths. Everybody's going to have their weaknesses. But, if you want to be a professional track runner, you have to be damn athletic and fast. Okay, so you have to have some athletic talent and ability there. If you want to be a professional content creator, which essentially any of us with an online business, that's what we need to be in one way or another, or hire somebody on our team to do it. You just have to learn the skill of what's required at that time to be the best, right? Anyone can do that. That's our goal here. So any thought around I'm not interesting or pretty or cool or funny or whatever enough to be incredibly successful or one of the best in your industry is a lie straight from the devil. It's not a thing. But you do have to have skill. You do. You do have to be proficient at your craft, whatever that is. So there's skill there. And you do have to have devotion to the goal of wanting to be one of the best, wanting to be elite in your industry. So when I say things, which I say a lot, when I say things like, this is available to all of us, this is what I mean. That's why I say that, because it's true. There is not one person on the planet that cannot be one of the absolute best in online business, regardless of your industry. No matter what. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what your current situation is. It can happen, but you have to go for it. It's available, but you have to go for it. And the traffic on the way there starts heavy, but then gets significantly lighter, right? Like if you're ever traveling out of a busy city, there's going to be some stop and go. There's going to be a lot of traffic and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. And then you get a good 10 miles out and all of a sudden, 90% of the traffic is gone. That is online business in a nutshell at certain levels. Okay, because most people are mostly talk and not enough action and follow through. So yes, elite level is a big undertaking. It is a major, major commitment. I'm not minimizing that. But in so many ways, it is the easier choice. So you've heard the saying, you choose your hard. We choose our hard every single day. It is easier to be mediocre than pro on the come up. That's the easy choice, right? But it's a lot harder to be one of a million than to be one in a million. That's where it gets really difficult. And conversely, it's easier to be pro in terms of the results once you make it, but it's a lot harder to carry once you're there, and it's a lot harder holding that standard on the come up. So which hard do you choose? Do you choose the hard of being one in a million or the hard of being one in a million? Which do you choose? Because the choice is yours. Okay? So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this fires you up. I know not everybody is going to want to go quote unquote pro or elite in their respective industry, as we know, but I hope there's a good percentage of you who hear this and says, why not me? And it will be me. I believe in you. I know you will do it, and I am cheering you on. I love you. I'll see you here next week. Bye.